It's Your Fresh Presents. I'm here today at Rayners Lane with manager of Rayners Lane, Marc Dacey. How are you?
Just looking out the window, looking a bit wet.
It's wet, it's cold.
But 4G, game on.
Yes. Who have you got today?
Leatherhead. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I've only had 4 games, and that's been against 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and then Hendon, who are the league above.
So you came in with a tough run.
Yeah, came
Right.
in. And then Farnham, who were top, were due to be last week, and then that was rained off.
So how did you get on in those first few results?
Kingstonian was the first game. We lost 2-1.
Okay.
Hazing Yedding were 3rd. No, Hazing Yedding were 5th. We drew 1-1.
Oh, okay.
Hendon were the league above. We were 2-0 down with 10 men, 1-3-2.
Decent.
That was a good day. Boys really took on board how we were going to adjust with 10. And it's a strange one because you don't set up to play with 10 men.
Yeah, of course.
Red cards and all that stuff. But I've had to adjust to that because at step 5 and step 6, you get sin-binned.
All the time.
We were 1-0 down, and then right back gets sent off.
Jesus.
Literally on half time. So it was like, cool.
So you've got to do a whole 45.
Whole 45. Did change the shape. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. 2 minutes into the second half was 2-0. And I was like, oh, for God's sake.
This is not going to be a good day in the office.
They'll just see this out.
Yeah.
And Hendon didn't change. And we just found the right pockets, right spaces, scored early to make it 2-1. Gave ourselves plenty of time, made it 2-2. I think if you were watching and not counting players, that last 20 minutes, you wouldn't have guessed who had 10 and 11.
Yeah. What do you think about that sin bin stuff, like step 5, step 6 in general?
I don't see the point in it because on all levels of football now, the game's becoming different. The game at step 5 and step 6 is now different from step 4 to step 1. And then the Premier League with VAR and goal line technology is different from the Championship. If you look at Man United, Leicester yesterday, like, I didn't see it, but just from looking on Twitter this morning, like the winning goal was potentially encroachment of offside. VAR potentially rules it out. There's no VAR in the cup competitions. Even FA Cup at our level, it's replays. As soon as you get to the 3rd round, they're gone.
Yeah.
Get the Tamworth Tottenham thing, taken to 0-0 at 90 minutes. That game might be worth $500,000, $750,000.
Yeah.
They don't get the replay at Tottenham's ground. So the game's very different. I found from the suspensions that we had from it, from trying to be polite to referees at the end, it was just like, oh, they keep talking. So now the referees have the power to go, off you go.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you're not mentally strong-minded as a referee, you'll just see it as a bit of bullying and you're like, off your pop.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd rather them just come up and go, right, cool. This player keeps talking. One more and he's gone.
Yeah.
And just communicate with us a little bit better.
Yeah.
So for me, I understand why they want to do it, but it's either got to be throughout the pyramid
or none.
Or none at all.
Yeah. How did you get here? How did this opportunity come about?
So I came out of the DONS and it was kind of like early November, and I just thought it had been a lot in the summer, kind of agreeing to stay at Sevenoaks and then leaving Sevenoaks and then agreeing to join Hastings, and then the DONS came around the day before I was due to go to Hastings.
Right.
To then go into the DONS, having to rebuild all of that. I think I just had the transition of Harry leaving Sevenoaks and then my son being born.
Oh, congrats.
And thank you. He'll be 1 next month. So
you've survived 1 year of parenthood. Well done. I've got a 2-year-old, so I know exactly what it's like.
Hard. He's not sleeping at the minute, but and his mum's gone back to work, so a lot going on in the house.
Tough. Yeah, it's tough.
But I had the 6-a-side World Cup with England in Dubai in that time as well.
Okay.
So it was dealing with all of that and pregnant partner at home. And so I feel like I just needed a little break to come away from it. I had some good offers, but nothing that I was just like, oh.
Nothing let me get out of it. Yeah.
And then Anthony Cook, who was here, I get on really well with Cookie.
Oh, Cookie. Yeah.
Yeah, really, he'll captain the side today. He was just like, look, Justin's moving on. I know it's a long way from home. And I kind of looked at it and went, I know the level of step 4, but I know South East, South Central. I know the names of clubs, don't know the clubs, don't know the managers, don't know the players. why not?
Yeah, new challenge.
Yeah, needed to kind of keep my name around a little bit, because I guess that's probably the biggest thing that I've taken from the Dons, is it's given me a different exposure. So kind of now just sitting in the background. I didn't want a reputation to just be like, oh, he's a guy from SC Dons.
Yeah, how did you find that level of exposure? Because I think in non-league, from my experience, and I'm probably quite late to the party, if I'm being honest.
Right.
So there's names that you hear flying around that have obviously been in non-league for a while, but not everything is documented. Not everything is on camera. So then how did you find, you might be a name that might ring, but it might not be the name that rings on camera.
Yeah.
And then now, like, let's say, for example, like, I didn't know who you were before you went to Dons.
I think what's really good about Chris and Geek, who are mainly the boys behind the camera, was we set our stone out straight away on going. They want to film everything, no problem. I think only once I asked for the cameras to be turned off.
Right.
Because I had to address everybody as a group.
Did you ever find that, like, something had gone out and it didn't look how you wanted it to be portrayed? Like, that message has gone out and actually...
I never really had a problem with anything that they ever put in. I asked for the tactics board to be blurred out.
Yeah.
Which, you know, wasn't a problem at first, but seemed to be a little bit more of a problem.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, but it's funny because, like, they sent me a clip. They played against Tooting Beck in the cup.
Right, yeah.
I got sent off against Tooting Beck.
Yeah, we saw, we saw.
So yeah, they were chanting to the other manager that I'm in the car park and I'm waiting for him and everything like that. So when I come to watch that, find that little park, so I wanted to have a laugh.
Is that true? Was you in the car park waiting for him?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. So we can just confirm that wasn't true, guys.
So, and then, so I ended up watching the rest of the episode, and Antonio's talking and text was blurred out. So,
right, okay.
You know, it can't be too much of an issue. But
how did you find that whole, obviously the Welcome to Non-League thing went viral, and they were saying off camera that people were still coming up to you and saying, like, oh, welcome to Non-League. Yeah. Talk us actually through that moment, like, given the context. Why did you say that?
The thing is, this is where people don't realise the pull that SC Dons have. I knew they had a pull because I've known so many of them. Like, honestly, I could put it comfortably 2 11s out of SC Dons players that I work with in non-league.
Yeah.
Like, people like Jordan Green, who's gone on to be a pro. We had him when he was 17. Matty Parsons, Kingy, like George, they're all at Glebe. Like, Bradley Ryan was with us at Sevenoaks. So I could be here all day. But I didn't quite understand. I suppose you can look at subscribers and views and everything, but because I didn't watch it, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I started watching it because I was friends with Junior James. And slowly started to see a lot of the boys we'd worked with in non-league had gone there, or we were working with them afterwards. Yeah. And I think it was when you're then there and you're in that circle and you see how they work and like the announcement video and everything. Like, I remember them sending me my announcement video prior to it going out. Right. And I actually pulled over on the hard shoulder on the motorway to watch it. And I had goosebumps. And I'm like, oh,
this is crazy content.
Different.
Yeah, it's different levels,
So they gave me a rough idea of when it was going to go out. So because it was in the summer, me and my partner went just for a walk. And they're like, seriously, your phone will blow up. Yeah. And then I come back and it was just... So, I'll be honest, the whole experience I had there, I enjoyed it. I was disappointed in the way it finished.
Yeah, so how did it finish?
Well, they'll say a culture clash, but I wouldn't say they want a yes man.
Okay.
But they do want a yes man in some aspects.
Okay.
I said no to things that I didn't feel were needed or relevant because how I conduct myself might be different from someone else. Yeah. So an SC Dons dugout now with Antonio and his team is very different from a dugout that I hold or dugouts that I've been a part of. The same as the team that I had is now not the team that they have. Been 14 player departures since I went. That's not saying mine's better than theirs or vice versa.
It's just clearly very different.
Yeah, and I think what they have done is protected their brand. I'm very quiet on the sidelines, as you see today. I'm very much trust in the process of we've set you up well enough in training for you to instigate the game plan. So I'm not going to shout for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And I think because everybody comes down to the Dons and because they know about the cameras and the opposition dugouts will put a show on.
Oh, yeah.
As in like some of it, I'm just sitting there kind of going, this is a bit embarrassing
from
you.
Yeah.
And I think for the Dons boys, that is their normal.
Yes.
And I understand that, but for everybody else, it's not.
Did you feel you was the right fit?
100%. I categorically think that they'll win the league. I think Antonio will also deliver at least one trophy. So I do feel like they'll do the double. I do think he's a great fit for what they have now, for the little that I have seen of it, because like breaking up with an ex, I'm now not just going to continue to watch it. But I also stand by, I would have done the same thing, just in a different manner. My disappointment, and this is not on the Dons in any way, shape or form, I'm probably remembered for two things. The welcome to the league comment, which we'll run to, and getting beat 5-0 by Croydon.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Which was first versus second. People don't realise that we went 11 unbeaten. We won 9 of those. I only lost 1 league game where I was in the dugout. I got manager of the month. And all everybody else remembers, we were top of the league. All everybody else remembers is the other stuff. Now, the Croydon game, I wasn't there. I had a stadium banned from the sending off.
Because of the Tooting-Bec game?
Because of the Tooting-Bec game.
Yeah.
So,
is that the only game you lost?
The only game I lost where I was there was first game of the season, Staplehurst.
So 13 games, 11 of those you win.
Yeah. So my record in the league was 1 defeat, 2 draws. So it would have been, 9 wins?
So you've got 13 games. You might as well say you've actually only lost 1 because 2 of them were draws. To get rid of someone with such a good record on the outside would look crazy.
The Dons brand is aggressive, in your face, fast flowing football. And that, I got no issue with that. We were very much, we're built from the black. We're going to play through lefty. We're going to play through Jackson Mutis. We're going to link. And we did that on, no disrespect, the worst pitch in the league.
Yeah.
And we're still top.
Yeah.
But that's not what they wanted in the end.
Right.
So that's where the culture clash was, the same as they wanted more, probably more of a vocal dugout.
Manager, yeah.
And I've got to say on camera, because I think that they've got a lot of press. George and Andrew never wanted to be in the dugout.
Right.
I know, because there was uproar when I was let go. And I think that was a mixture of what you just said, because I was top. Obviously, Croydon knocked us off that week.
Did you see it coming?
The defeat or the sacking?
The sacking.
Not a chance.
There was a bit of talks about that it wasn't really a sacking. Well, it was like hidden and it wasn't really a sacking.
No, I was sacked.
It was a sacking.
Yeah, I was sacked. I'm not saying we necessarily win. The 5-0 Croydon defeat doesn't happen if I'm in the dugout, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
It's the same as any manager that's missing from a game. That's not me putting it on the players. That's not me putting it on my staff. It's ultimately it's me that sets them up. So I know what I'm looking for. I know what I would need to have changed. And ultimately, it was one of them games where did Croydon deserve to win it? Hands down, they did. But it was one of them ones where there was a few game-changing moments that we didn't take and then they did. And then when it becomes like first v second and you're 3 down and you've conceded just before half-time and then you concede straight away in the second half, no one keeps going properly at 4-0.
Yeah.
So it could have actually ended up being more. But I think what they saw in that moment, the Dons, was the dugout that they wanted.
Right, okay.
And so that game happened on the Saturday. On Saturday night, I was given full backing from the board.
Okay.
And was sacked on the Wednesday.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a massive curveball.
Yeah.
How were you told?
Just before training.
You was on your way to training?
I was at training.
You was at training?
They came and met me just before training, yeah. And yeah, they just said
that's a bit of a sting, no?
It was because I had to kind of, the players were due to arrive shortly. So I kind of, you know, Andrew walked me out. And yeah, I was just like, look, let me just get out of the way because it's not right for the players to see me.
Did you say bye? Did you like?
We shook hands. Yeah, we shook hands. I wasn't happy with it. And then I spoke to Andrew and George at a later date because it was an initial shock. It hurt.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it hurt. Like my ego was hurt.
And how did you feel when the statement went out and it wasn't a sacking? When it was put out, it wasn't made out to be a sacking.
I mean, the statement's on them because the statement was nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And they addressed it in their podcast. It's a huge transition for them, like massive. And there's going to be certain things along the way that they're not going to have a choice in having to give up. But I understand that moment is not now.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've always allowed people in the changing rooms. They've always allowed the huddle to be surrounded by people. That's something that I had to get used to. But ultimately, in 95% of the games, our huddle was done by Punters Row. They've got a huge Punters Row banner. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
That was my gift to them.
Right. We're going to do the huddle by...
But even the banner.
Oh, I see.
So I won't have anybody ever say that I didn't buy into the project. Because I didn't have to go and do that off my own back. I hadn't left at this point either. I'm still the manager.
Yeah.
I went to geek with it. He designed it. Him and I went halves on it.
Yeah.
To give back what you're producing for me. But I think all they needed to do was sit down with me and go, right, Dace, we're going this way. The brand needs to be this way. Can there be compromise on this, and this? And if there's a yes, we move forward. And if there's a no, then you part ways. They just made a decision and they ran with it. But you know what? Like I said, I loved it. And I think if you speak to them boys, I don't think many people would have done what I was able to do from the moment I went in, because obviously I joined. They had 5 players. They had next to no bibs. They had next to no footballs. They had no staff. They only had a training facility for a few weeks in pre-season. They had no pre-season games. So we sorted out, I think, 7 games. We only ended up playing 5. I found a training facility. I got all the equipment. I found staff. I put a team together.
Is this a manager's job to do all of this stuff?
I mean, you don't ever really go into a club. When you go into a club, it already has its fundamentals. Yeah. Obviously, they're transitioning from K Runner, Montel, Tom Chambers, that are settled in the levels and the clubs that they're playing at. So this is huge for them to put together. And then in the first 4 weeks, lost George, captain of the club. Jack Samutis, 6 weeks. Zach Ansa, 6 weeks. SK moved to Brighton, couldn't commit anymore to the first 2 games for us. RJ left. Like, my spine.
Yeah, that's the whole spine.
Got Zach Ansa, I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. Zach Ansa out. Completely core ripped to pieces. Then signed Adam Allen, dreads, pulls his hamstring, 3 months, gone. Jesus. Half an hour into a game, and now it's like I've got to pull a whole squad together, and we won majority of those games without our big hitters. Yeah. So for me, in my head, I'm just like, cool. Well, when they return, we're gonna now become a bit of a different beast. Yeah. But yeah, it didn't elapse to that, and like. I've got no bad blood. I don't think they do. I'm just hoping that they go through this whole trust the process thing, I think because of the backlash of me being removed. Because I think a lot of people resonated towards me. And I noticed that with what we spoke off camera on. Like, I do still get stopped now that I'm away from it, it's what was right for them and it was what was right for the brand, even if it wasn't right for me. I just hope that it's not a "I told you so."
Yeah.
Because that's when I'll probably take it a little bit more personal and going. Because then that to me just goes, to me, I take that as, oh, he wasn't a good enough manager. I just wasn't maybe right for the brand now.
Yeah, yeah.
But then they'll get an opportunity where the way that they are now won't work, I don't think, as much when you go up the leagues.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But that's not something they have to worry about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not yet, no, yeah.
And I think for the way that they are winning games, they're beating teams in the league above, which again we did. I think Antonio's a great fit, and like I said, I think they'll go on and comfortably win the league. And it'd be nice if they can get a cup final day out, because they bring serious numbers.
To kind of come away from the Dons journey a bit, I know you mentioned that you've been in around non-league for like 17 years.
Yeah.
So how have you found your experience from your entry into non-league to like now being at Rayners Lane, in terms of like what do you think has changed in non-league, what stayed the same? How's the 17 years been? There's
a lot more 3, 4Gs, 5Gs, whatever you want to call them. A lot more fake pitches.
Do you think that affects the players that you work with?
I think on their body, yes.
Negatively?
Yeah, I don't think it's great for your knees, your back, long term. I think especially these young players, if they go and play 15 odd years in non-league, as they get older, they'll see there's a problems. Like, especially in the summer, if they're not watered, they become very hard and very heavy on the legs.
What about the footballers, in terms of the footballers' mentality you would have seen 17 years ago to the players that are coming through now? So let's say the older ones that we mentioned that you would have worked with, or around the Bennos, the Cadoggans, even being around like a JR, do you know what I mean? Like, we're in the over 30 club, basically, in comparison to the youngsters that are now 19, 20, coming into non-league.
Yeah.
How do you find the difference between these new age footballers to how it was 17 years ago?
I think the game has ultimately changed. Barcelona and Pep and things like that. You know, a lot. You can watch a youth game. Like the brief that I watched at that, both teams are playing out from the back.
Yeah.
So when I kind of first came to non-league, to be fair, the team I was in, we did all of that. And that's kind of why I started. That was when I was at Holmesdale.
Is that where you started the journey?
Yeah, John Paul Collier, who owns England Six-a-side.
Right, okay.
And then Mark Cumberbatch was in charge. He had a really good career. But it was teams just set up mainly flat 4-4-2, hit the big target man, runner off. Wouldn't really have much of a pressing structure because it was a game of tennis. And then slowly Whiteleaf were the first team to have a 4G, so then Whiteleaf started to change the way they played a little bit more. And then I just think as the game progresses, everybody's tactical nous, management-wise, is a lot higher than what it was back then. I think just back then there was a lot more of a drinking culture as well.
Yeah.
That's what I really liked about Whiteleaf and Glebe and Sevenoaks, is we had boys that were happy to have a beer after a game.
I mean, is it not still a thing that you get fined if you don't stay for a drink?
I think it's you just get fined if you don't stay till a certain time.
Right, okay.
I think when you have those team nights out and you have that camaraderie, your team goes a lot further. Man. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's your 12th man, definitely.
And I think if you look at, especially Glebe's clubhouse, there was always functions there.
Yeah.
Always, whether it was parties or anything like that. And the one thing I'll give Rocky credit for, he was always asked whoever's function it was, do you mind if the players
come
and that stay because they're in here, because they've got an outdoor area that's heated and everything. We'd be at some random person's 40th till closing.
I'm not going to lie, I went to Lewis a few weeks ago. Their club is amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of their social side, like the setup, they've got like those beach huts and it's wicked. And I thought, this is great to be around. If you're a part of this club, yeah.
My dad played for Lewis back in like 70s or 80s.
Yeah, it's really good. Do they have that here?
The clubhouse is brilliant.
Great.
Clubhouse is brilliant. And I just think like that part of it is when you've had a good win, you know, you don't necessarily need to go for a night out, but having a few beers, and all of a sudden it's like, oh God, it's 9:30.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
My missus is fuming.
Yeah. You know, and you get to know about people's personal life, their family, their friends, their kids, what they do for work. And then all of a sudden you just create a rapport. Sometimes that doesn't happen now because we'll come out at a game today and the late kickoff will be on. So then everybody's watching that. So then all you're really talking about is football.
Yeah.
And then so that personal connection doesn't kind of
blossom as much.
Yeah. So that for me as a management is something that I've seen kind of slowly come out. And that's why I'd say probably one of my biggest strengths is man management, because I will go out my way to learn about who I'm working with.
Yeah.
To create that bond with them, especially like what we spoke about here. Like, I'm an hour and a half from home.
Yeah.
So if I leave at 6:30, I'm looking at 8:15.
Yeah, I feel like
I've been away from my family all day. The night is as good as done. But yeah, I think pitches, the style of play, and then the team culture thing is not there as much in terms of like, having a drink after a game.
Yeah, when you come into a job for the first time, whether it's here, wherever it is that you've been, as a manager now, not a number 2, you come in for the first time, what would you say would be the things that you would prioritise to implement? Is it playing philosophy? Is it camaraderie? Is it training equipment? What's the first things you prioritise when you come in?
It has to be, knowing that they've got the resources that you want to use, understanding of where the club is at and what players you have. It's all well and good me wanting to come here and go, cool, we're going to play through the thirds. If I haven't got a goalkeeper and a centre half who's good enough to do that, you just ultimately can't do it straight away. Now, you might have to move those on. You might have a club that go, do you know what, we're 14th in the league. We really want to keep this young goalkeeper. We're not going to go down. We're not going to make playoffs. So then I've got time to work with him. If it's a case of coming in here and they're going, look, we've invested heavily, we really need to push for playoffs. If somebody can't do what I want and somebody's available that can do it, you're more likely going to be able to do it. But for me, it's getting to know the people around it. I'm very hands-on, hug the players a lot. If I'm talking to one of them in a game, if he's kind of come over at the side, you'll often find that my arm's probably around him at some point. You know, I try and get involved as much as possible when they're doing like the little rondos at the start and getting involved with a little bit of a laugh and a joke with them. But then I also know I don't get involved in it, as in like if we're screaming and shouting, my voice will be out. But I also then know when to step away and be a manager.
Right,
because I feel like if you get the person, you get the player.
Yes,
so if they know you care about them, you will get extra % out of them. And I feel like I did that at Sevenoaks. I feel like I did that at the Dons, and I feel like I've done that so far here.
When you mentioned about if you want to play through the thirds and you don't have a goalkeeper and a centre half that can do that, but you know someone that's available that can.
Yeah.
How much do you think budget affects that? Do you think that if you can, you would now be at a point where I can actually afford the player that I want to bring in?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I'm assuming most clubs do it, that we did when I worked with Harry, we had an analysis guy, Kev Rawlinson, who's at Lewis at the minute. Geordie lad, brilliant in what he does. We always had lists of players in every position that was updated frequently on, cool, all right, we're going to lose our striker. Cool, who's on the list? You might have 4 or 5 names.
In and around your step?
In and around, step above, step below. So you might all of a sudden go, okay, cool. Let's just say, for example, we're at Sevenoaks. Freddie Parker is out for 4 months. All right, cool. What money do we have available? Where does that now narrow down the list of the strikers that we've got? So Kev has this great network of just knowing what's going on in every league. So all of a sudden, if you've got a 35-goal striker at step 5 that might be at a club that's not doing great, you might be able to get him for maybe slightly cheaper because he's coming up a level. If you're trying to look at maybe step 3, you could look at maybe a team that's struggling at step 3 where the person goes, well, I'd rather go down and be in a title race than a relegation battle. So there's all different incentives. But
so the backroom staff's key then?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge. And that's as much as the backroom staff I have here and the backroom staff that I have at the Dons was brilliant.
Yeah.
Not having those little extra things
makes a
on
difference.
Just going, all right, cool, we need a 9. Who's where? Who might be available? Who's not happy? Instead of just having a spreadsheet ongoing, and that would be updated weekly. Like if a geezer scored a hat-trick, cool, now all of a sudden look on the sheet, he's 18 goals have gone to 21.
Right,
so you're like,
right.
okay, maybe we really need to move for this player.
Yeah.
And obviously you have your players that you've worked with previously and from the past. I've been lucky that I've come into this group, and the way that I want to do things, they're more than capable of being able to do.
Right.
The issue we've had is we've just given away a couple of silly goals and we're not fit enough.
Would you be willing to adapt your playing philosophy if you don't have the players that can play
I think you have to, otherwise you're asking, it's just going to be a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
With like youth sides or under 23s and everything, I was like 4-3-3, playing out from the back, wing forwards do this, fullbacks do this, 10s do this, and I did it year on year on year. And then if I go and work with like a Sunday side, let's just say example under 14s, cool, you're doing it as well. Even if you're not capable of doing it, because I'm looking at it as development. And it's only then I was having a conversation with someone and someone was like, do you not feel that you're hindering your progression and learning by doing the same thing every year? And I was like, well, it works. So I'm not.
Yes, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
And they're like, okay, cool. But then there's going to be a point where the game's going to evolve and it doesn't. And it's just like, you've just basically done the same year 7 times. And that's why I took the opportunity to go and work with Harry.
Right.
Because I went in with Harry and Cal and they're like, no, we'll play a 3-box-3, we'll play a 4-4-2 diamond, we'll play 5-3-2, we'll play 4-3-3. And they had solutions for everything. And I'm like, yeah, I should have done this sooner.
I need to be a bit more fluid.
I need to be a bit more fluid. So now I know how to play a 3-5-2. I know how to counter a 3-5-2, 4-3-3. A lot of teams play a box now, 4-box-2, 3-box-3. I don't necessarily see it as quick as what Dan Hogan would or a Harry would or a Cal, because they're full-time and they do it non-stop and they can spend hours going, but I see it a lot quicker now.
With the likes of the Harrys and stuff like around you, how do you maintain your own learning now that they're gone, if that makes sense? Like, have you got to go do your badges, you've got to pick up the phone, you've got to go and watch other training sessions, other games or whatever? How do you keep yourself ticking over?
Maybe not, because Harry's gone into a new role, I kind of left him be a little bit, but I speak to Scott Harris, Kingstonian manager. Now, he was at Waltman Hersham. He had 3 back-to-back promotions.
Yes,
so I speak to him a lot. Chris Agatar at Worthing, similar philosophy. He's been Hastings, done really well, went to Brighton Academy, back to Hastings, gone to Worthing. Marc White at Donkin. Gained a relationship with him because that's probably the closest to the Dons I've seen in terms of it just being a little bit of a different setup and trying to understand sometimes, because Mark's the manager as well as the owner, trying to see things from different perspectives. But I still speak to Harry, still speak to Adam Fleming, probably the most frequent.
Where's Adam Fleming now?
Rising Ballers.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, I didn't know that, actually. Interesting.
Kinetic Rising Ballers.
Yeah, it's making sense.
I speak to Junior James probably 2-3 hours a week.
Yeah, big up JR, by the way, because I've got me and JR in a coaching development group at the moment. And I intentionally went and sat next to him like a couple of weeks ago to pick his brains, and the level of detail that he produces for Whiteleaf is like astounding. And I did say to him, it's a group of like loads of coaches that's in different journeys, and there was a point where we had to like swap partners as such, and I said, no, Jay, I'm gonna come and sit next to you. Because I wanna see what the hype's about, basically. And the stuff that he laid out and the analysis that he does and the detail that he's got, I thought, you deserve to be higher than where you are, but you're doing it for a reason. It's not by accident.
New. It's not new either. I really hope that they get promotion for him. I really hope they get to Wembley. But I have a love for them this year because there's so many players that he has that have played under me previously. Corey, Benno, Gaspar, Gonda, Aaron Watson, Lefty, Helgi, like Danny Rose again, goalkeeping coach. So when they won last week in the Vars, which was probably the two favourites, I was elated for them. You know, as well, like going out, I can pick up the phone to Junior Caddy, Gavin Rose, Tony Russell, Joe Vines, Nathan White, like.
Yeah, these are like non-league vets almost.
but also just in terms of they've won things. Yeah. They've won leagues, but they have a very similar philosophy to myself. So it's kind of, it's really good to bounce back, even though you don't necessarily see each other too frequently. I know I had a game against, I'm not sure if it was Sevenoaks last year. I think it was Sevenoaks. We played Burgess Hill. New manager came in. They played a 3-box-3. We did it slightly lopsided for about an hour. We just got nowhere near them. We were 3-1 down, and I just changed the shape, and we drew 3-3. And then watched it back, and then sent that half to a number of them, and just said, "I'm not going to say anything to you. What would you have done?" And it was brilliant because I probably said it to 4 people, and they all come back with 4 different answers. And then I'd done something different. So there's 5 solutions there.
Yeah.
There's 5 solutions there.
You just have to pick one.
So now it's like, that goes in the portfolio.
Yeah.
And then it's now a case of noticing when it happens again, understanding what does the game need in that moment, which of them solutions is there, and have you worked on it? And if you haven't, do you have the players that have the intelligence?
That can just do it if you ask them to.
We're game 5 today.
I was going to ask about today, actually. Yeah, talk to me about today.
The 5th formation we've played since I've been here.
Blimey, so you're waiting for something to stick?
Not waiting for something to stick. We're seeing what they're capable of.
The players?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So far, even though we've 1 win, 1 draw, 2 defeats, we've been brilliant.
So, I mean, we're planning on sticking around. So, like, talk to me about today, the prep, what you feel like you're up against, have you had to have some tough conversations already? How are you feeling about today?
I always feel like I can beat anybody.
So you don't feel pressure?
No.
Ever?
No point. Pressure is a doctor in life surgery. Like,
don't you feel
pressure.
It ever?
Not really.
What if you're up against a team that like you used to work for or something? You know, and it means a little bit more.
I think that's ego. I think that's ego.
Yeah.
Of course, like, if wherever I'm at next year, if I draw SC Dons in the FA Cup,
you must feel
there would be no pressure. I'm just like, right, there's a bit of raft here if I don't win.
Yeah.
But I'd also be excited for it.
I'd
also be excited for it.
Yeah.
But I think when you maybe get full time in football, or you have a duty of care, maybe like kinetic, where you're dealing with people's lives a lot more in terms of they're at school and there might be trouble outside of it and everything. That to me is pressure. Here, ultimately, if I don't get it right, I just get set.
And you're okay with that?
I guess my philosophy within football is I will die on my sword doing it my way.
Fair enough.
And I think and that's why once I got over or past a few days with the SC Dons.
The breakup.
Yeah. One of my pals who has nothing to do with non-league football, best tattoo artist around, Dan Harvey, giving you a plug there.
I need a Harriet Tubman tattoo, so someone better judge me nicely.
He's Croydon, so I'll sort you out.
Yeah, great. Yes, let's talk on camera about that.
He said to me, "Can you look yourself in the mirror and say you did it how you wanted to?" And I went, "Yeah." Went,
and if the answer's yes, then you're content.
Then he's like, "You're good then." And at that moment, it was the penny drop. Okay, cool. Let's go again. So I'll be the same here.
So how do you manage someone else's pressure? Because you don't feel it. If they feel it.
I don't put the pressure on players, but they'll know about it if they then take advantage of me being calm.
Right, yeah.
So I think sometimes you can find, especially with players that come out of academies and come into non-league football, I find a big reason on why they struggle is they will come out of clubs where the coaches will have solutions
for them. Yeah.
So
they can't. They're struggling to problem solve themselves.
You come into non-league and you go into some changing rooms, and a manager's way out will be to bollock you because they don't have a solution.
Interesting. Yeah.
We've all been in them.
Yeah, we've all been in them. Yeah, we have. Yeah.
And so our thing now is, or how my thing always has been, is regardless of score, performance, or anything like that, at times a voice has to be raised, and sometimes a bollocking, if you please, has to be done. I've probably done that more at Sevenoaks than the other two clubs. Obviously done it once at the Dons, and sure we'll get on.
And we all know about it.
But it's ultimately like, what's the solution? Hendon being a perfect example. We're 1-0 down to a team in the league above us. We just go straight down to 10 men. It's easy for me to go, oh, for God's sake, boys, that performance in the first half was rubbish, and you've gone and got yourself sent off. What's the solution? What's going to get us back into the game of football? Because the game's not finished. It's just not necessarily in your favour in that moment.
Yeah.
The same as had the tables been turned and we were 1-0 up and they were down to 10, it'd be very easy to go in there and go, look, we've got the extra man, just keep moving the ball, chances go. No, what's the solution? All right, the solution is, I feel like they're going to go to this. So if they go down to 10, they might go, I don't know, 4-4-1. Cool. But they've got a single 9, so we should be able to get out all the time through that. And it's just solution. And like that's just how we try and be. And for that, if you're feeling pressure, then causes panic. Well, I've only got 2-3 minutes from when the whistle goes to when I have to start talking.
Yeah.
So every kind of second is precious on going, okay, cool. Let's compose ourselves. And then what you said about earlier, this is about having the right staff to go calm.
Yeah.
And especially at Sevenoaks, having Junior James and Adam Fleming, there'd be times where I'd be fuming. Because that to me is my first manager's job, and that's where I probably learned the most about how I wanted to be. So like I said, I never wanted to be a manager. First things first, base, calm. Solutions, what solutions do we have? So I'll take 30 seconds. They'll already start talking about the solutions on the board. This is in the dugout while the players are walking off. We've then come in, right, cool. We generally go off a 3-piece. So we give 3 bits of information. Anything else for us personally is probably too much.
Yeah.
And then by that time, even if I still want to bollock them, I've calmed down a lot before I get into the changing room.
Yeah.
And then even when I get into the changing room, I'll probably take my jacket off. I'll go to the toilet. I'll let them do whatever they need to. So I'm even calmer.
You've had a minute,
and gone. Now, if I still feel like I need to raise my voice, I can do that. But it's nowhere near as emotional.
Yeah.
And then I think sometimes you can say the wrong things or do the wrong things, which no doubt throughout my career I've probably done.
Yeah.
And then in that moment, you can lose a dressing room. I've got a book of every ground that I've been to, when I went, what the pitch is like, little things like, is there plug sockets in the change rooms? Because now you might not be able to plug your speaker in. So if the music's not on, that affects people.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's the same as when we had a kit man at SE DONS. It's like, right, okay, cool. Well, Zach Hansel wants cut socks. Reece Barrett wants normal socks. So now he knows when he's getting out, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
It is sometimes they're minor details on making things easy for people.
Yeah.
So I'm the same. I'm like, oh, you've got the speaker. Because for me, music relaxes me.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, even all that stuff. So like we might get to, you know, again, the Farnham game that was cancelled last week. The Farnham pitch now compared to the Farnham pitch in September to the Farnham pitch in April might determine how we play and how we do things. And I never used to keep store of that stuff, and I always thought it was a bit busy. And then I saw that other people done it, and I was like, actually, you never know. It's so much easier now to just go, all right, cool, let me have a look through that instead of just being like trying to find out from someone else or trying to guess and then getting here and being unprepared. And I think there's all things like that players don't see, board don't see, chairman don't see, arguably some of your staff don't see. That are all things that you kind of try and put into place. And I know that I probably don't feel too much pressure because when a game starts, if I know that I've covered as many bases as what I can without overloading them with too much detail, if we win, we win, we lose, we lose, we draw, we draw.
Who should we be looking out for today?
For us, the Shane Dallin.
Okay.
Going to be on one wing. We've got a young lad, Remy, who's just come out of Brentford. He made an impression Thursday.
First time coming in?
Couple of ankles. Couple of ankles
rolling.
But he's going to be one of them players where he's got to adjust to non-league.
Okay.
And also be one of them people where the screams and shouts where you've broken an ankle are one thing. Now how's your end product?
Yeah.
Because I can't just, and I'm not saying he is this lad, I can't just have him here for an Instagram reel.
Yeah.
Like if you want to kick on, go and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing, because I know I kind of keep swearing off. That's where the welcome to non-league young man thing came from.
Right, okay.
Because that was aimed at George Edwards, who they call Sinchenko. He was with me at Seven Oaks last year. He's a great lad. Tottenham, Arsenal, kinetic, which is ultimately how it's Harry that brought him into us. He's used to nice pitches, pass, academy football. He'd come in with us at the Dons, got himself a trial at Wrexham, 23s.
Okay.
Gone there and done really well. But it wasn't right for him and it wasn't right for them.
Right.
And part of their reason being was if he got called to first team, they don't feel like physically he's ready yet.
Right.
But then also maybe overplaying.
Okay.
So obviously you have to pick the pieces up as his manager. And go, okay, cool. Well, you're still playing here on a poor pitch, but then also trying to get him to understand that sometimes he's going to come up against people that are faster than him, people that are stronger than him, people that are going to get on top of him. And there's just been a little bit of a period where I kept having to say to him, you've got to be quicker at doing this, you've got to be quicker at doing this. And it's funny because that clip, that actually ended up being my last game.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I've never seen that coming.
Elmstead. And I think we were 1-0, it was 1-0 at half time. And our out ball in that game was Ryan Palmer at right back and George at left back. From the shape there was, it was out. And depending on where George was on the pitch, if he was shallow, he would have time to take it down and pick a pass. If we then had him higher, it was a case of, you're the free man, but someone's going to pressure you, so you have to help it on. And he brought one down and got caught, and it went out for a throw-in.
Right.
And then he got caught again, and the lad went through.
Okay.
And that was when it was like, too many times within that performance, we'd gone a little bit rogue. We didn't defend the transition well enough, and it led to a really silly goal. And I was just like, cool, first time. I'm walking in like this. First time I'm gonna lose it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we went in, did my thing, went to the toilet, took a breath.
Still livid.
Hit him with the punch. And it was just like, he has the potential to have a great career, even if it's just non-league, because he's so technically gifted. Because he's so young, he is a man in a young man's body, but he's got to get used to the crash and bash of some teams that he's going to play in. So if I gave him an opportunity to be able to do that, and because I'd spoke to him during the week about, like, this is what I want from you, this is the detail I want, it might not be what he wants to do, but this is what the game requires. And that's when I was just like, and the thing is, I wasn't even going to dig him out. And then sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, and then he's caught my eye, and I just went, yeah. But you know, there's a lot of managers. I didn't think that clip was going to do anything. I never even gave it a second thought, because I thought I was quite tame with him for the tone in which I was done it. Other managers might drag him, they might rollick him, they might swear at him, they might call him a name. It's only when I went to non-league, that's when I caught the camera and just thought, young man, instead of going, you little brat or whatever. And yeah, so when they put it, and this is the funny thing about the whole SC Dons thing, I think only ever one comment actually bothered me a little bit, on where people just don't understand any context of what being in a a football dressing room, not just non-league, a football dressing room is. And you get some people going, he's so big-headed, Well, no, because actually what people don't realise in that moment is the draw turned into a win, a comprehensive win, and at 75 minutes, we took George off, at which he came off to a standing ovation.
Yeah, you don't see that, do you?
And actually, I'm not sure if it's in the episode, but I know that's not something that they would necessarily... And the first thing he does is, whenever a sub comes off, I try and make sure that I'm the first one that they see when I'm the manager. Open arms, big hug. That's better. That's better.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Where's he playing now? Step 4.
Yeah.
So he's gone and pushed himself up 2 leagues.
Yeah.
And now he's playing in a team that doesn't necessarily play the way that he has done with us. I spoke to him yesterday because I said to him, one of the questions I've got is about, and he just went, oh, God, he's like, you get it, I get it. And I think the funny thing is, like, I was working in Islington last week, and obviously we spoke because I had to put my dog down, so it was the next day, so I was a bit emotional anyway. So I was just walking down the street in Islington, and I'm like, beep, 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 and there's just big white there, welcome to non-league, man.
Christ.
And I'll be honest, it just really cheered me up.
Right,
It was just like, because I find it really strange and bizarre that in that moment, somebody's in their van just going, whoa, that's Dacey.
That's Dacey.
Yeah. And then there was 3 of them. There was obviously a driver and two lads in the seat. And I'm just thinking, yeah, they must think they're the dog's bollocks. It did make me laugh. And, you know, I've been a few other places and like even just like walking through London Bridge, and a guy just come up to me and he just said, he's like, really enjoyed your content when you're on the Dons. Shook my hand and left it be, and you're just like, that's really heartwarming.
It's encouraging, and
I think they're one of the only platforms that allows that to happen. But people have to like you and they have to resonate with you, and that's why I was saying to you earlier that if you're not yourself, you will get found out. And I think that's what's great about George and about Andrew is they are unconditionally who they are. Marc White, another prime example. I'm assuming that, or I saw it, when Dawkins first came out and a bunch of amateurs, I'm sure everybody was going, who's this Wally, blah, blah, blah. Everybody loves him now.
Yeah, he's unapologetic for himself.
The few occasions that I speak to him, he don't beat around the bush. And I like it, and that's why I go to him sometimes for advice, because he's just like, no, I kind of understand where you're coming from, Dacey. I think he'd be like, no, yes, doesn't beat. I tried to get a player to him, or would he be interested in a player? And he's like, absolutely, but not this season. Done and dusted.
Fair enough,
We'll speak in the summer. Whereas he could have gone, do you know what? We do like him. I'm not too sure if that's beat around the bush. He's just straight to the point, bang. I've got an answer, player's got an answer. He knows that there's interest next year. Whether he chooses to push on that is, and I just find that kind of transparency, as hard as some of the conversations of being honest and being yourself are, people respect it more. And like, I don't enjoy dropping players.
Yeah, no one does.
But every Friday I'm making 5 phone calls telling people they're not starting. Because, not to make myself look good, they now know on a Friday they're not playing. They don't have an attitude then when they've turned up. And then you don't have to have the discussion at the end of, why didn't I play today, or why didn't I do it? I'll always address it ahead of time so that people are understanding of what it is. And then the same as what I say to the boys here, I kind of have an introduction speech whenever I go into a new club, because it's 3 in a year now, so I've got it pretty nailed down. I will always say to the boys, if you ever want to come to me about why you're not playing, don't ask me why I'm not playing. Ask me what have I got to do to play. Because asking me why you're not playing, you're going to get a negative answer and you're only going to take it negatively. Whereas if you flip it and go, what have I got to do to play? I'm giving you stuff to go, this is what's going to get you in the team, this is what's blah, blah. And then if you can't do those things, then I can warrant continuously going, this is why you're on the bench.
Yeah, the conversation's
and if positive. They do that, they've got a better opportunity at starting. But then also said to them, there's going to be times, the Don's prime example, I didn't have to make those phone calls after a while because the team was picking itself because it was winning and therefore you don't change your winning formula.
Yeah.
And that was difficult because I'm bringing people back from injury, Jackson Mootis, Zach Ansah, boys that should be starting and should be playing, and I'm leaving them on the bench. And they're coming on and making an unbelievable impact. Jack will score, get an assist, Zach will score. I'm like, okay, cool, but you still might have to ride that wave until, because ultimately the team winning is more important than the individuals. Some people will go, I'm not going to continue to wait that out. Understandable. You shake hands and you move on.
Yeah.
But I know that I've been transparent.
Yeah.
They have been. And I just feel like that's the easiest way. And that also takes pressure off myself because some people don't want to just have those conversations. I don't want to have those conversations, but they're a lot easier to get people on board on having them, to be able to come and have the changing room trust you and want to play under you to kind of progress to go forward. Yeah,
because they know what they're going to get. So I'm conscious you've got to prepare for your game. So the final question I'm going to ask you is, if you can, well, I don't know if you can narrow it down to one, but is the most talented player that you've coached since being in non-league? I'll maybe let you have a couple if you can't decide. It's just one.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nico Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
Centre half, we had at Glebe. We had him for 7 games. Rocky said he wasn't good enough. Now plays Southampton on loan at Milton Keynes DONS.
Interesting, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Kwame Poku.
Okay.
Peterborough was with me at Cray in the youth. That's an interesting one because I had to convince him to play in the FA Youth Cup because he was going to quit football.
Wow. And now he's where?
Peterborough. Won back-to-back Player of the Month in League 1 or League 2. I think they're League 2. Yeah, I think League 1 or League 2. Played for his country, played at Old Trafford, played at Goodison Park.
Imagine that.
So he went from us to Worthing, broke into Worthing's first team straight away, went from Worthing to Colchester, I think.
Right.
Colchester to Peterborough. And do you know what? I then just got to start ringing out like Brian Gonda, Dan Bennett, just mavericks. Just mavericks in their own way. So, yeah, I hope Nico and Kwame, if they can get to the Premier League, be like really proud moments.
Yeah, good success stories.
Yeah, I'll probably go those 2.
Good. Okay, we wrap it up there.
Appreciate it.
All the best, by the way, for today.
Thank you.
We're going to stick around. So, yeah, I hope that you win today. And that's it. It's UrFresh Presents.